In the quantum space between dimensions, where the multiverse had grown dangerously thin since Wanda Maximoff tore through existence searching for her children, something ancient and deliberate pressed against the weakened barriers. The Sorcerer Supreme felt it first, a wrongness that made every protective enchantment around the Sanctum Sanctorum flare crimson. Doctor Strange's hands froze mid-gesture, T suspended in violation of physics as his third eye opened unbidden. Across the cosmos, the Watcher turned his gaze earthward. In the ruins of what had been Asgard, Thor's remaining eye snapped open, Stormbreaker humming with premonition. And in the cold vacuum above Earth's atmosphere, the Eternal's ancient senses registered an impossibility. A god from outside their cosmology was crossing over. The breach opened above the Gobi Desert, far from civilian populations but visible to every satellite Sword had deployed. The sky didn't tear. It inverted, folding inside out as dimensional mathematics rewrote themselves. Reality buckled, and through the wound in existence stepped Darkseid, Lord of Apocalypse, the god of tyranny. He stood 3 meters tall, carved from living stone the color of volcanic rock. His eyes burned crimson, not with heat, but with something worse. The Omega effect, the fundamental erasure of being itself. The armor that encased his frame wasn't metal, but the essence of conquered worlds, gray and unbreakable, inscribed with glyphs no earthly language had words for. Behind him, the portal sealed, but the damage remained, a scar in space-time that would attract every reality-sensitive instrument humanity possessed. Darkseid surveyed this new universe with cold calculation. His search for the anti-life equation, the mathematical proof that would eliminate free will across all existence, had led him here, to a cosmos wounded by its own conflicts, ripe for the taking. He could sense the echoes of great power recently expended. Infinity, stones, they had called them in this reality. Destroyed, yes, but their conceptual framework remained. Quantum ghosts in the structure of space-time. The Mind Stone especially, its essence still lingered, and where there had been one tool of absolute control, there could be another. The ground beneath his feet turned to glass from the sheer gravitational intensity of his presence. Darkseid raised one hand, and the Omega beams lanced from his eyes, twin beams of red that defied physics, curving through empty air to strike a distant rock formation. The stone didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, erased from reality at the molecular level. Satisfactory. His power functioned here, even if the underlying cosmic architecture differed from the source he knew. This universe operated on different fundamental principles, but tyranny was universal. This world has known conquerors, Darkseid spoke, his voice the grinding of tectonic plates. It will learn the difference between ambition and inevitability. 3,000 kilometers away, in what remained of the Avengers compound in upstate New York, alarms shrieked. Bruce Banner looked up from quantum equations he'd been reviewing, his face already shifting green at the edges as the Hulk sensed danger. Sam Wilson, Captain America now, still adjusting to the weight of the shield, was mid-training session when his tactical display lit up red. Sword's emergency broadcast cut through every channel. Dimensional incursion detected. Entity class, unknown. Threat level, cosmic. "We've got company," Sam said, wings already deploying from his suit. "The bad kind." Dr. Strange materialized in the compound strategy room in a shower of golden sparks, the eye of Agamotto dark against his chest. The time stone was gone, but the relic remained, and right now it pulsed with warning. "We have a problem," Strange announced, unnecessary given the pandemonium, but his face was grave in a way the Avengers had learned to dread. "Something has crossed over from another dimension, not a variant, not a breach we've seen before. This is an invasion." Invasion? Rhodey, War Machine, pulled up holographic data streaming from Sword satellites. One guy. "Look at the energy signature," Bruce said, now fully Banner, controlling his transformation through sheer will. The readings made no sense. Off the scale wasn't hyperbole. The instruments literally couldn't quantify what they were detecting. Gravitational distortion, reality warping, and something else, something that made Bruce's physicist mind rebel. That's not one guy, that's a walking singularity. In the Gobi Desert, Darkseid began walking. Each step covered impossible distance, space folding to accommodate his will. He would find this world's centers of power, identify its strongest defenders, and determine whether they would kneel or be made examples of. Behind him, the sand turned to black glass, a trail of desolation marking his passage. Thor arrived, first crackling with Bifrost energy, Stormbreaker in hand. The god of thunder had felt divine presence before. His father, the Celestials, even Thanos had possessed a terrible majesty. But this was different, this being radiated dominion, the absolute certainty of supremacy. Thor's warrior instincts, honed through 1,500 years, screamed warnings. "Stranger," Thor called, lightning dancing across his armor. "You tread upon Midgard, under the protection of Asgard and the Avengers. Identify yourself and state your purpose, or face—" The Omega beams struck faster than thought. Thor raised Stormbreaker, and the divine weapon intercepted the crimson rays. Barely. The force drove Thor backward, boots carving trenches in the glass, every muscle straining against power that sought to erase him from existence. The beams didn't just destroy, they negated, unmaking matter at a fundamental level. Only Stormbreaker's own reality-warping nature, forged in the heart of a dying star, held against them. "Another God-king," Darkseid observed, almost amused. "This universe has many who play at divinity. You will learn the difference between godhood and power." Thor roared, summoning the Bifrost itself as a weapon, rainbow energy pouring from the sky like a lance of creation. Darkseid raised one hand and caught it, the energies of the Bifrost, capable of destroying planets, compressing in his palm. He studied the phenomenon for 3 seconds, analyzing the quantum tunnel technology, then crushed it, dispersing the energy harmlessly. "Impressive," Darkseid acknowledged. "You may survive long enough to witness my ascension." The new god's hand shot forward, spanning the 100 meters between them in an eye blink. Thor met him with Stormbreaker, lightning, and the god Tempest erupting from the weapon. The collision sent shock waves across 3 continents. Seismographs registered 8.4. Sword satellites went temporarily blind from the energy discharge. They were evenly matched for exactly 4 seconds. Then Darkseid's other hand came up, Omega beams firing point blank. Thor twisted, taking the hit on his armored shoulder instead of his chest. The armor, Nidavellir, forged among the finest in the 9 realms, disintegrated. The flesh beneath blackened, and Thor screamed, not in pain, but in rage, bringing Stormbreaker down with every ounce of divine strength he possessed. The axe bit into Darkseid's shoulder, crackling with storm and starfire. It was the first wound the Lord of Apocalypse had taken in this reality. He looked at it, almost curious, as rivulets of something that wasn't quite blood, darker and more fundamental, seeped from the cut. "You have earned a swifter death than I usually grant," Darkseid said, respect in his granite voice. Then he caught Stormbreaker's handle, stopping Thor's follow-up strike cold. Lightning poured into the new god, enough electricity to power cities, but Darkseid stood immovable, drinking in the energy like rain. His other hand closed around Thor's throat, lifting the god of thunder from the ground. "But first, you will tell me of the Mind Stone." Thor's eyes widened, this being new about the stones. That meant intelligence, preparation, and worst of all, purpose. This wasn't random destruction. This was calculated conquest. A portal of golden light erupted between them. Doctor Strange emerged, the crimson bands of Cyttorak already forming, mystical restraints that had held beings of cosmic power. They wrapped around Darkseid's arm, and Strange pulled, teleporting the new god 5 miles straight up, while simultaneously yanking Thor to safety. In the sky, Darkseid hovered, suspended in nothing, examining the magical bindings. Sorcery, he mused, primitive but functional. The Omega effect flared. The bands of Cyttorak, mystical constructs that existed across dimensions, woven from the essence of a demon god, unraveled, not broken but unmade, erased from reality by power that transcended magic and science both. Darkseid descended like a falling star, but with perfect control, landing before Doctor Strange and the wounded Thor. The Sorcerer Supreme had already prepared his next spell, hands weaving through forms that bent space-time. "You should not exist here," Strange stated, analyzing this being with every mystical sense he possessed. "You're from outside the multiverse as we understand it. The dimensional barriers were never meant to allow your kind through." "And yet here I am," Darkseid replied. "Your barriers are weakening, your infinity stones destroyed, your reality fractured by your own hero's desperation. I have come to bring order to chaos." "We've met tyrants before," Sam Wilson's voice came from above. Captain America descended on vibranium wings, shield ready, backed by War Machine, both targeting systems locked. They all thought they were bringing order too. Darkseid's gaze shifted to Sam, and for a moment, the new god seemed genuinely intrigued. "You wear another symbol, a mortal playing at leadership. Tell me, Captain, what did you sacrifice to claim that shield?" "Everything I had to," Sam replied, shield raised, "and I'll do it again." "Then you already understand," Darkseid said. "I offer you the same choice I offer all worlds. Surrender your free will, accept the piece of anti-life, or be broken in defense of an illusion called freedom." The Omega beams fired at all 4 heroes simultaneously, and the battle for Earth's soul truly began. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character, and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below. With great power comes great responsibility. The Omega beam split mid-flight, 4 becoming 16, each curve defying physics as they tracked their targets with malevolent intelligence. Sam dove, shield raised, and the vibranium absorbed the impact. Barely. The force hurled him backwards, wings straining against momentum that threatened to shear them from his suit. War Machine fired repulsors and micro-missiles simultaneously, creating a wall of explosions between the heroes and Darkseid, buying seconds. Doctor Strange didn't waste them. The mirror dimension shattered open, reality fragmenting like broken glass, and he attempted to trap Darkseid in the recursive pocket dimension that had held Thanos' power at bay. The geometric fractals closed around the new god, walls of impossible angles and Escher staircases designed to contain threats by removing them from baseline reality entirely. Darkseid stood within the mirror dimension for exactly 3 seconds, examining the crystalline prison. Clever. A pocket universe within. Your own, using reality as a cage. His eyes flared. The Omega effect didn't destroy the mirror dimension. It rejected it, asserting Darkseid's existence as more fundamental than the construct around him. Space convulsed, and Strange screamed as his spell was reversed, the backlash slamming through his nervous system like fire. The Sorcerer Supreme collapsed, Wong catching him as he materialized through an emergency portal from Kamar-Taj. The mirror dimension failed. Strange gasped, blood trickling from his nose. He didn't break it. He denied its authority over him. I've never seen that. "Fall back," Sam ordered, already analyzing defeat. True, this wasn't a battle they could win. Not yet, not without understanding what they faced. We need intel. We need time. Time is a luxury I do not grant, Darkseid intoned, beginning to stride toward them. Thunder answered him. Not Thor's lightning, but something older, wilder. The Bifrost tore open again, and Valkyrie emerged astride her, winged steed, followed by what remained of New Asgard's warriors. Behind them, a second portal. Wakandan vibranium technology, and Shuri stepped through, panther habit active, flanked by the Dora Milaje. "You fight a god of Asgard," Valkyrie snarled, blade blazing with enchantment, "and think we would let him stand alone?" "Protocol dictates we respond to cosmic threats," Shuri added, her gauntlets charging with kinetic energy harvested from Wakanda's vibranium reserves. Wakanda does not hide while Earth is threatened. Darkseid surveyed the assembled heroes with the dispassion of a general counting soldiers. More arrived to die with honor, predictable, admirable in its futility. The combined assault came from 6 vectors simultaneously. War Machine's unibeam, Shuri's sonic cannons, Valkyrie's dragon fang blade wreathed in Asgardian magic, the Dora Milaje's vibranium spears conducting energy attacks. Sam's shield throw calculated for maximum kinetic transfer, and Thor recovered. Enough to fight, bringing Stormbreaker down with the full weight of the god Tempest behind it. Any other opponent would have been obliterated. Thanos himself had struggled against coordinated Avengers assaults. Darkseid raised both hands, and reality bent around him. The attacks hit something invisible, a barrier that wasn't force but pure dominance. His will made manifest, denying the universe permission to harm him. Energy splashed across the invisible aegis, and Darkseid stood untouched at the eye of a storm of destruction. "Is this your mightiest?" His voice carried disappointment. "Your Thanos was mad. I'm not mad. I'm inevitable made conscious." The Omega beams erupted not from his eyes, but from his hands, dozens of crimson rays that tracked each hero with predatory precision. The battlefield became chaos. Valkyrie's steed was struck and simply vanished, erased from existence, the Valkyrie herself barely portal jumping away through Strange's emergency casting. 2 Dora Milaje warriors disappeared, their vibranium spears clattering to glass where women had stood seconds before. War Machine's armor sparked, systems failing as an Omega beam grazed his left side, the technology unable to comprehend the fundamental negation, trying to unmake it. "Retreat now," Sam ordered, and Strange opened portals under each hero, dropping them to safety even as exhaustion made his hands shake. The last thing they saw before the portals closed was Darkseid, standing alone in a crater of black glass, watching them flee with the patience of stone. Avengers Compound's medical bay filled rapidly. Thor's shoulder wound resisted regeneration, the Omega effect having done something to the tissue that Asgardian healing couldn't process. War Machine's armor was partially fused to his skin, where reality had tried to delete him. The 2 Dora Milaje warriors were simply gone, not dead, but erased, and Shuri's fury at the loss burned cold and dangerous. "We need everyone," Sam said, standing before the holographic display showing Darkseid's position. He hadn't moved, simply standing in the Gobi Desert like a monument to conquest. "I mean everyone. X-Men, Fantastic Four if Reed's back from the negative zone, the Guardians if we can reach them, Carol Danvers. Captain Marvel is investigating a Kree disturbance in the Andromeda Galaxy." A hologram of Nick Fury appeared, his sword uniform crisp despite being transmitted from orbit. "She's 3 weeks out at maximum speed." "Then we work with what we have," Sam replied. "Strange, what did you learn?" The Sorcerer Supreme had recovered enough to stand, though Wong hovered nearby protectively. "He's not from our multiverse. The dimensional signature is completely foreign. It's like comparing water to stone. Our reality's rules apply to him, but he has the strength to simply override them through sheer existential authority. The mirror dimension works by trapping things in recursive space. He didn't escape it. He refused to acknowledge it had power over him, and reality agreed with him. "That's impossible," Bruce Banner said, though his tone suggested he believed every word. "That would require consciousness affecting quantum-level reality structures. Unless..." His eyes widened. "Unless his consciousness is a quantum-level reality structure, he's not powerful. He's fundamentally different, like trying to arrest gravity." "Can we kill him?" Shuri asked bluntly. "Stormbreaker wounded him," Thor offered, his voice rough with pain and something else. "Recognition. I have fought gods, monsters, celestials. This being is all three. But he bleeds, which means he can die." "He said something about the Mind Stone," Doctor Strange recalled. "Specifically asked about it. That's not random. He's here for a reason." The holographic display shifted as Jarvis, Tony Stark's final gift to the Avengers, still operational from distributed servers. Compiled data. Cross-referencing alien linguistics, database with vocal pattern analysis. The entity used the term anti-life twice, searching for contextual meanings. Nothing came up. Whatever anti-life meant, it wasn't in any Earth database. "We need information," Sam decided. "Fury, what's Sword's analysis?" "That thing is putting out energy readings comparable to a celestial in active phase," Fury replied grimly. "He's been standing in one spot for 47 minutes, and the localized gravitational distortion is measurable from orbit. If he starts moving with purpose, we won't be able to contain the collateral damage." "Then we don't contain," Sam said. "We eliminate. But first, we understand what we're fighting." A new voice cut through the discussion, smooth and carrying the weight of mischief. "Perhaps I can help with that." Every weapon in the compound turned toward the speaker. Loki stood in the doorway, hands raised in mock surrender, wearing his characteristic smirk but with something else in his eyes. Genuine concern. Before anyone tries the tedious, heroic posturing, Loki continued, "Know that I'm here because that thing out there terrifies me, and I'm famously difficult to terrify. I've ruled Asgard, commanded the Chitauri, held an Infinity Stone. That being radiates something worse than power. Certainty. The certainty of dominion." "Why should we trust you?" Sam demanded. "Because I know what he is," Loki replied, his expression turning serious in a way the Avengers had rarely seen. "When I commanded the Mind Stone, I touched something vast, a cosmic network of knowledge the stone connected to. I saw fragments of other realities, other universes entirely separate from our multiverse. One image burned into my mind, a world of fire and stone, ruled by a being who had solved the equation of tyranny itself. A new god, they called him, Darkseid. The name hung in the air like a curse. "You're saying he's from another universe entirely?" Bruce asked. "Not a variant timeline, but a completely separate cosmological structure. Think of our multiverse as one tree," Loki explained, stepping to the holographic display. "Infinite branches, but one trunk, one root system, the same fundamental forces. He's from a different forest entirely. The rules are similar, but not identical. In his universe, there are beings called new gods, and he is their darkest expression." "What does he want?" Shuri demanded. "The same thing he wanted in his own reality," Loki said quietly. "The anti-life equation. It's a mathematical proof, a formula that would eliminate free will itself. Absolute control over all conscious beings. In his universe, he's been searching for it for eons. The Mind Stone's energy resonates with similar principles. He's here because our reality, wounded and destabilized by the stone's destruction, might contain fragments of what he seeks. The implications crush down on them like gravity. If he finds it, Strange said slowly, if he discovers a way to replicate anti-life here, Every thinking being in this universe becomes his slave, Loki finished. Not convinced, not conquered, simply deleted as individuals and replaced with extensions of his will. It's not death, it's worse. It's the murder of choice itself. Thor's hand tightened on Stormbreaker. Then we kill him before he finds it. We already established he's nearly unkillable, Rhodey countered. Our best hit barely scratched him. Then we hit him with something better, a new voice suggested. Peter Parker swung through the compound's skylights, landing in costume, followed by Dr. Octavius, the reformed version who'd helped during the multiverse crisis, and surprisingly, Eddie Brock, the Venom symbiote rippling beneath his skin. Spider-Man, Sam acknowledged. Glad you're here. Doc Ock? Venom? Wasn't expecting you to. When a cosmic threat shows up, old distinctions seem less important, Otto Octavius replied, his mechanical arms folding behind him, thoughtfully. I've been analyzing the energy signature from my laboratory. It's fascinating. The being operates on principles that seem to merge Clarke's third law with quantum consciousness theories. Sufficiently advanced consciousness becomes indistinguishable from reality manipulation. We can science talk later, Venom growled, the symbiote voice overlaying Eddie's. Right now, we're here because that thing out there, we can feel it. The symbiote hive mind is screaming. It's like nothing we've encountered. Older than null, more absolute than any god host we've sensed. We're terrified, which means you should be too. In the Gobi Desert, Darkseid had not been idle. His presence had attracted attention, as he'd known it would. The first to arrive were scavengers, Hydra remnants, AIM splinter cells, opportunistic villains who sensed power and thought to harness it. They came with weapons stolen from Stark Industries, PIM tech acquired through black markets, even a few desperate souls wielding damaged Chitauri technology from the Battle of New York. Darkseid studied them with the clinical interest of an entomologist examining ants. When their leader, a man calling himself the Crimson Dynamo, wearing Russian-made Iron Man armor, demanded to know Darkseid's intentions, the new god smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. I am Darkseid, he stated simply. I am the revelation of anti-life. You stand before a god, and your choice is simple. Serve or die. We serve no one, the Crimson Dynamo proclaimed, raising repulsor-equipped hands. The Omega beams erased him from existence before he could fire. The armor clattered to the ground, empty, the man inside simply gone, not killed, but removed from reality itself. The remaining villains stumbled backward, weapons falling from nerveless hands. I did not offer negotiation, Darkseid continued. I offered certainty. You are small, weak, driven by petty dreams of power. I am power incarnate. Serve me, and you will witness the subjugation of this universe. Refuse, and you will cease to witness anything at all. One by one, they knelt, not out of loyalty, but terror, the purest motivation. Darkseid regarded them with satisfaction. Fear was the beginning of control. The anti-life equation was the end. You will be my heralds, he declared. Go to this world's centers of power. Tell them Darkseid has arrived. Tell them surrender is inevitable. Tell them I seek the Mind Stone or anything that contained its essence. Anyone who brings me information will be rewarded with survival. Anyone who resists, he gestured to the empty armor, will be forgotten. The villains scattered, carrying his message like plague vectors. Darkseid allowed it. Terror spread faster than armies, and he had time. This universe had been wounded by its own hero's desperate gambit with the Infinity Stones. The fabric of reality bore scars, weak points he could exploit. Already he could feel the quantum echoes of the Mind Stone, faint traces in the consciousness of those who'd wielded it. The vision had been destroyed, his body bearing the stone dismantled. But consciousness left impressions. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, had been touched by the stone's power. Loki had wielded it. Even Stark, in his final moments, had channeled all 6 stones through his armor. Their minds might hold fragments, quantum entanglement with the Mind Stone's essential nature. Darkseid began walking, each step deliberate, toward New York City. If this world wanted to fight him, let them come. He would demonstrate the futility of resistance. Behind him, the black glass spread like infection. At Avengers compound, the tactical situation had evolved from desperate to catastrophic. Jarvis displayed reports flooding in from around the world. Darkseid's heralds were delivering his message to governments, criminal organizations, and anyone who would listen. Some officials panicked, others prepared for war. A few, terrifyingly, began considering surrender. "We need to move against him now before he establishes a foothold," Sam insisted, studying force deployment options. "Every minute we wait, he gets stronger." "Or we get deader," Rhodey countered. "Sam, we threw our best at him and barely scratched paint. We need a plan beyond punch harder." "I may have one," Dr. Strange said, his tone carrying the weight of forbidden knowledge. "It's risky, catastrophically so, but we're beyond safe options." Every eye turned to him. "The Darkhold's knowledge remains in my mind, despite destroying the book," Strange continued carefully. "Among its forbidden spells is one designed to banish extra-dimensional entities back to their origin point. It requires channeling energy through the Sanctum Sanctorum's ley line convergence, amplified by human sacrifice." Wong finished grimly. "Stephen, no. We discussed this. The cost of that spell is always greater than the benefit." "What if the sacrifice was willing?" a quiet voice asked. Everyone turned to find Wanda Maximoff standing in the doorway, chaos magic flickering around her fingers. She looked older, harder, the events with the Darkhold having carved lines of grief and guilt into her face. But her eyes burned with determination. "Wanda," Strange said carefully, "you shouldn't be here. After what happened? After I nearly destroyed the multiverse looking for my children?" Wanda interrupted bitterly. "I'm aware of my crimes, Stephen. I'm trying to atone, and right now, I'm the only one here who's actually wielded the Mind Stone's power extensively. If Darkseid wants information about it, he'll come for me. Let's use that." "Absolutely not," Sam stated. "We don't use people as bait, especially not the unstable witch who tried to kill a child," Wanda asked, her voice sharp. "Say it, Captain. I know what I am, but I also know what's coming. I can feel him, that thing from another world. He radiates entropy, the death of choice. I've stolen agency from people. I wore an entire town as a puppet show. I know what it feels like to be that monster. He's worse than I ever was, and if I can stop him, maybe I can balance some scales." "This isn't about redemption," Strange argued. "The spell requires more than willingness. It requires channeling power that would destroy you, Wanda. You'd be gone, not just dead but erased, used as fuel to push him back through the dimensional barriers." "Then I'd finally be with my children," Wanda said quietly. "In some other reality, some other existence. It's more than I deserve." The room fell, silent, the weight of her offer pressing down on them. "There has to be another way," Peter Parker said, his youth making the desperate hope in his voice more poignant. "We're heroes. We find other ways. We don't sacrifice people." The compound shook. Not from an explosion, but from something worse. A presence approaching that made reality itself shudder. Alarms blared, and the holographic display showed Darkseid, now only 50 miles from New York City, walking with inexorable purpose. "Decision time," Fury's voice came through. "Sword is tracking him. He's heading straight for Manhattan. Population density there is 27,000 per square mile. If he fights in the city, millions die," Sam finished. "We intercept him before he reaches population centers. All available Avengers, suit up. Strange, Prepare your banishment spell as a last resort. But we try everything else first. Wanda, you're staying here under protective... Chaos magic exploded through the room, not attacking, but demonstrating. Wanda stood at the center of a reality-warping storm, her eyes glowing scarlet. I'm done being protected, Captain. I'm done hiding from what I am. You want to fight a god? You'll need a monster on your side. Before anyone could respond, she vanished in a crimson portal, teleporting directly toward Darkseid's position. Damn it, Sam swore. Everyone move. We can't let her face him alone. But even as the Avengers mobilized, even as Thor summoned the Bifrost and strange open portals, they all knew the terrible truth. Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, had just declared war on Darkseid, and the collateral damage from that confrontation might destroy more than just the combatants. In the sky above the Gobi Desert turned wasteland, Wanda materialized in a storm of chaos magic, reality fragmenting around her like shattered mirrors. Below, Darkseid stopped walking and looked up, genuine interest crossing his stone features. The one who wore an entire population as puppets, Darkseid observed, clearly having absorbed knowledge about this universe's recent history. The Scarlet Witch. Your power resonates with probability manipulation, reality restructuring. Impressive for a mortal, insufficient for a god. I've killed gods before, Wanda replied, hands weaving complex patterns, chaos magic building to apocalyptic levels. I erased mutants from existence with 3 words. I rewrote reality to give myself the children I wanted. I've been touched by the Mind Stone, by the Darkhold, by forces you can't imagine. You want to take free will. You'll have to take mine first. She attacked with everything she had. Reality bent, twisted, inverted. Probability itself became weaponized. Darkseid's next step had a 100% chance of being in every direction simultaneously, a quantum impossibility forced into being. The ground beneath him tried to exist and not exist in the same moment. The air around him became fire, ice, vacuum, and water, all at once. Irantia, normal opponent, would have been obliterated, torn apart by existence itself being used as a weapon. Darkseid stood unmoved, letting her assault wash over him, studying the mechanics of her power with clinical interest. Chaos magic, he said, as if lecturing. You manipulate the probability fields underlying reality, elegant, limited. You change what is, but you cannot change what must be. I am what must be. I am inevitability. The Omega effect pulsed, and Wanda's magic simply stopped working, not blocked, not countered, denied. Her chaos magic hit the fundamental assertion of Darkseid's existence and shattered like glass against bedrock. She gasped, shock and fear flooding through her. Impossible, she whispered. My power doesn't fail. It can't. Your power rewrites reality within parameters, Darkseid explained, beginning to walk toward her, each step deliberate. But I am from outside your reality's parameters. Your magic assumes a quantum substrate it can manipulate. Predate such substrates. I am the thesis to which your universe is merely footnote. Wanda threw everything at him, hex bolts, probability manipulation, attempts to simply erase him from existence the way she'd erased mutants. Nothing touched him. He walked through her most devastating attacks like they were autumn leaves. You sought the Mind Stone's knowledge, Darkseid said, now standing directly before her. You've touched its essence, been marked by its power. Perfect. His hand shot out, grasping her head. Wanda screamed as the Omega effect poured into her mind, not destroying but reading, downloading every memory, every quantum entanglement she'd ever had with the Mind Stone. He was using her as a living archive, extracting information about the stone's nature, its location, its principles. Then Thor arrived in a thunderbolt, Stormbreaker leading, and the god of thunder's fury was biblical. The divine axe struck Darkseid's arm, severing it at the elbow in an explosion of lightning and god blood. Wanda fell free, unconscious, caught by red and gold armor as Ironheart, Riri Williams in her own version of Stark Tech, swept in for the rescue. Darkseid looked at his severed arm, lying in the black glass, then at Thor. The limb regenerated in seconds, flesh and bone knitting from nothing, new god physiology asserting itself over damage. "You're improving," Darkseid acknowledged. "That actually hurt." "I'm going to do more than hurt you," Thor promised, lightning transforming him into living storm. "I'm going to send you back to whatever hell spawned you." The battle that followed would be recorded by every satellite, every camera, every terrified observer for miles. Thor unleashed the full power of the god Tempest, the primordial storm that existed before creation, channeled through Stormbreaker. Lightning that could crack planets poured from the heavens. Darkseid met it with the Omega effect, crimson beams that erased Thor's lightning from existence, matter and energy both ceasing to be where they intersected. They clashed in close combat, god against god, Stormbreaker against indestructible flesh. Darkseid's stone fists cracked against Thor's face, each blow carrying the weight of worlds. Thor's axe carved gashes in the new god's armor, drawing that dark blood that smoked where it touched ground. They traded attacks that would have killed lesser beings, each impact sending shockwaves that registered on seismographs globally. The Avengers arrived to find two gods trying to murder each other with the casual indifference to collateral damage that only beings of cosmic power could muster. Captain America, Sam Wilson, still feeling the weight of the shield that had belonged to a super soldier, immediately began coordinating the evacuation of nearby settlements, even as he knew they were miles away. At this power level, nearby was a relative term. Doctor Strange and Wong materialized in a shower of golden sparks, immediately casting protective barriers around the combat zone, trying to contain the devastation. The shields lasted approximately 4 seconds before one of Darkseid's Omega beams punched through them like tissue paper, forcing the sorcerers to abandon containment for survival. "We need a new plan," Sam shouted over the thunder of gods. "Thor's holding his own, but barely, and we can't hurt that thing." "Actually," a calm voice interjected, "we might be able to." Reed Richards stepped through a portal, his body already stretching into impossible configurations to avoid debris. Behind him came the rest of the Fantastic Four, Sue Storm invisible and generating force fields, Johnny Storm ignited and burning hotter than normal stars, and Ben Grimm, the Thing, his rocky form looking almost delicate compared to Darkseid's stone flesh. "Reed?" Sam asked, hope and disbelief warring in his voice. "I thought you were in the negative zone." "Was," Reed confirmed, his brilliant mind already analyzing Darkseid through sensors embedded in his uniform. "Detected the dimensional breach from there. The energy signature was fascinating enough to warrant immediate investigation." His face grew serious. "This entity isn't just powerful, it's coherent. Its power doesn't leak or radiate wastefully. Every erg of energy is precisely controlled. That suggests vulnerability." "Speak English, Stretch," Ben rumbled, already moving to support Thor as Darkseid backhanded the God of Thunder hard enough to send him cratering into a hillside. "He's efficient," Reed translated. "Efficiency implies optimization, which implies limits. He's operating at what appears to be maximum capacity, constantly, which means he can't afford to waste energy defending against attacks from multiple vectors simultaneously." "So we hit him from everywhere at once," Sam understood. "Overwhelming force from all directions." "More than that," Reed continued, his hands already building something from components he pulled from interdimensional pockets. "We need to attack on multiple conceptual levels simultaneously: physical, energy-based, magical, quantum, and conceptual. Force him to defend on so many fronts that he can't perfectly optimize his defense." Doctor Strange was already nodding. I'll handle the mystical assault. If he's from outside our reality, there might be dimensional frequencies he's vulnerable to. Forces his universe doesn't have that he hasn't developed resistances against. I'll coordinate the physical assault, Sam decided. Everyone who can hit hard, we're going to hit him from every angle. Sue, can you... Already generating a force field labyrinth around him. Sue interrupted, her hands moving in complex patterns as invisible barriers materialized in fractal geometries around Darkseid. It won't hold him, but it'll slow him down, give us windows. Johnny, maximum heat, Sam continued. We're talking supernova temperatures. Ben, you're with Thor. Close combat, keep him distracted. Wanda, if you're conscious, I'm up. Wanda's weak voice came through comms. Riri Williams had gotten her to safety, but the Scarlet Witch was already standing, chaos magic flickering uncertainly around her fingers. He's after Mind Stone knowledge. I felt him downloading my memories. He knows where it was, who used it. Then we make sure he doesn't get to anyone else who touched it, Sam said. Loki, you still with us? Unfortunately. Loki's voice came through, the god of mischief having shadowed the Avengers. Though I question my judgment in staying. You wielded the Mind Stone, Sam stated. That makes you a target. We need you protected, but also we need you to help us understand what he's after. In the crater, Thor rose, blood streaming from cuts that were already healing, his Asgardian physiology knitting flesh back together. Darkseid stood over him, showing no signs of damage despite the furious exchange. You fight well, Darkseid acknowledged. But you fight for nothing. This universe will kneel. The only variable is how much you make it suffer first. Then let it suffer, Thor snarled, calling lightning from clear skies, from the quantum foam of space-time itself, channeling the god Tempest's full fury. That's when the coordinated assault began. Doctor Strange and Wong attacked from 5 mystical dimensions simultaneously. Sitarak's crimson bands, Icon's images, Hoggoth's wisdom manifested as pure force, the winds of Watum, and the 7 sons of Cinnabis. Each represented a different conceptual framework of magic, borrowed power from cosmic entities that existed outside standard reality. Johnny Storm went supernova, heat that made the sun look cold, flooding the battlefield, the temperature sufficient to ionize matter at the atomic level. Sue's force fields contained the blast, directing it entirely at Darkseid, creating a furnace that should have vaporized anything. The Thing and Thor hit him from opposite sides, super soldier strength and godly might combining in perfect synchronization. Ben's rocky fists, harder than diamond, crashed into Darkseid's ribs while Stormbreaker split the air toward his skull. Wanda attacked his mind directly, chaos magic abandoning physical assault for psychological warfare, attempting to introduce probability and uncertainty into his thoughts themselves, to make him question his own inevitability. Reed Richards fired a device he'd assembled in 90 seconds, a quantum destabilizer that attempted to introduce Heisenberg uncertainty into Darkseid's position to make him exist in multiple locations with 0 probability of being in any specific one. Sam Wilson threw the shield, not at Darkseid, but at precise points in space, calculated to ricochet at angles that defied physics, creating a vibranium storm that attacked from mathematically impossible vectors. Peter Parker web-slung into the fray, using his spider sense to predict Darkseid's counterattacks and shouting warnings, coordinating the assault with his precognitive danger awareness, guiding the team. Even Loki joined, illusions layered with actual force, trickster magic designed to confuse perception and reality, making Darkseid question which attacks were real. For the first time since arriving in this universe, Darkseid was forced to defend seriously. The Omega effect erupted from his eyes in a continuous stream, beams splitting and curving to intercept attacks from a dozen vectors. His stone, fists blurred, catching Thor's axe, blocking Ben's punches, backhanding Johnny's plasma. Sue's force field slowed him fractionally. Strange's magic actually made him step backward, the dimensional attacks forcing him to acknowledge their reality, but it wasn't enough. "Impressive!" Darkseid roared, and for the first time his voice carried genuine pleasure. "You coordinate well, you leverage your strengths efficiently, you almost make me exert myself." His eyes flared brighter, and the Omega effect expanded into an omnidirectional blast. Heroes scattered, shields raised, magic deployed defensively. When the light cleared, Darkseid stood unmarked, but the satisfaction on his face was evident. "You've proven yourselves worthy of my attention," he declared. "I came seeking information. You've provided combat instead. Let me show you the difference between fighting and futility." He raised both hands, and the Omega effect built to levels that made reality scream. Strange's shields shattered. Sue's force fields cracked. Thor braced Stormbreaker, preparing for impact. This was it. The full power of a new god unleashed. A portal opened directly in front of Darkseid, human-sized, glowing blue. He paused, curious, as a figure stepped through. Dr. Doom emerged, arms crossed, metal mask reflecting the Omega effect's crimson light. Behind him, more portals opened, Magneto leading X-Men, Black Panther with Wakandan forces, the Guardians of the Galaxy arriving in the Milano, Captain Marvel finally returning, cosmic energy crackling around her, and dozens more heroes, villains, and cosmic entities, all having sensed the threat. "I am Doom," Victor Von Doom announced, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Monarch of Latveria, master of science and sorcery, he who has stolen the Beyonder's power and worn the mantle of godhood. I do not kneel to false gods from broken realities." Darkseid studied Doom with genuine interest. "Another who claims godhood. How many pretenders does this universe host?" "I make no claim," Doom replied coldly. "I state fact, and the fact is this. You are one being, however powerful. We are this universe's defenders, however fractured. You wanted our attention. You have it, all of it." Magneto floated forward, master of magnetism, his helmet gleaming. "I have spent a lifetime resisting those who would eliminate free will. You will find we resist well." Captain Marvel descended, binary mode activated, her body radiating cosmic energy sufficient to crack moons. "I've fought Kree armadas, faced down Thanos, and absorbed the energy of a white hole. You want to conquer Earth, you go through me." Black Panther, the king of Wakanda, activated his kinetic charge suit, vibranium glowing with stored energy. "Wakanda stands. We have never fallen to conquerors. We will not start with you." The Guardian's ship hovered overhead, weapons hot, Rocket Raccoon's voice crackling over external speakers. "We've fought Ronin, Ego, and Thanos. What's one more genocidal tyrant?" More arrived by the second. The Avengers alliance, forged in desperation, now numbered in the dozens. Heroes who'd fought each other, villains who'd sworn vengeance on heroes, cosmic beings who normally ignored Earth's affairs, all united by a simple principle. Whatever their differences, they would not submit to external tyranny. Darkseid looked at the assembled forces, calculated odds, assessed threats. Then he smiled, and it was genuine pleasure. "Finally," he said, "an actual challenge. Very well. Let me demonstrate why I'm inevitable." The Omega effect blazed, and the war for Earth's freedom began in earnest. The battlefield became a mathematical impossibility. Too many combatants, too much power, too many different forms of assault happening simultaneously for reality to properly track. Magneto seized every metallic component within a mile radius, transforming the terrain into a storm of iron and steel that converged on Darkseid like a crushing fist. The new god stood at the center of a magnetized typhoon, tons of metal compressing with force sufficient to create diamonds from carbon, and simply flexed. The metal didn't bend or break. It ceased being metal, the Omega effect rewriting its molecular bonds, turning refined alloys into inert dust. But that momentary distraction allowed Captain Marvel to hit him at relativistic speed, her fist carrying the kinetic energy of a meteor strike. Darkseid actually staggered, boots carving trenches in the black glass. "Good," he grunted, catching her follow-up punch and hurling her toward the stratosphere. Carol oriented mid-flight, absorbing the kinetic energy and converting it to photonic blasts that rained down like artillery. Each blast carried megajoules of energy. Darkseid walked through them, Omega beams answering, crimson rays that carved through her energy attacks and forced her into evasive maneuvers. Dr. Doom had not joined the physical melee. Instead, he stood apart, hands weaving complex patterns, combining Latverian technology with mystical arts learned from demons and ancient texts. "Richards," he commanded, old rivalry forgotten in necessity. "I need quantum calculations. Strange, coordinate your dimensional anchors with my temporal locks. Magneto, maintain pressure. Do not let him focus." Reed Richards was already 20 steps ahead, his brilliant mind processing combat data, looking for patterns in how Darkseid defended. He prioritizes threats based on conceptual danger, not raw power. He's more concerned with Strange's dimensional magic than Carol's physical attacks. That suggests that magic from outside his native reality's framework poses greater risk. Doom finished. Then we exploit it. Strange and Wong coordinated with the Scarlet Witch, 3 reality benders working in concert. They began layering spells from different mystical traditions. Kamar Taj's dimensional manipulation, Wanda's chaos probability magic, and Doom's techno-sorcery, creating a hybrid assault that no single reality framework could fully describe. Darkseid found himself fighting on conceptual battlegrounds he didn't fully understand, forced to adapt in real time. Meanwhile, the physical assault intensified. Thor and Beta Ray Bill, the Corbinite warrior having arrived through Bifrost, attacked in perfect synchronization, both wielding storm-blessed weapons, creating a thunderfront that lit the sky with perpetual lightning. The Thing and She-Hulk, pure physical might, struck like meteors. The Guardian's ship strafed from above, Rocket's improvised weapons mixing sovereign tech, Kree munitions, and his own genius insanity. Black Panther moved like liquid death, vibranium claws seeking joints and weak points, kinetic energy discharge making each strike hit harder than physics allowed. The Dora Milaje, having arrived with reinforcements, created a spear wall formation that herded Darkseid's movements, limiting his options. The X-Men contributed their own unique brand of chaos. Cyclops' optic blasts, channeling raw dimensional energy, struck with mathematical precision. Storm called hurricanes and lightning, her weather manipulation continental in scale. Iceman created absolute zero environments, attempting to freeze Darkseid at the molecular level. Wolverine, heal factor keeping him alive, attacked with adamantium claws, each strike testing if the indestructible metal could pierce new god flesh. And still, Darkseid stood. Wounded, yes. Thor and Bill's combined assault had cracked his armor. Carol's strikes had drawn that dark blood. Doom's techno-sorcery had actually made him pause. But he stood, and that was what terrified the assembled heroes. They were throwing everything at him, every power, every weapon, every tactical advantage, and he was still standing. "You're coordinating well," Darkseid observed, almost conversationally, even as he caught Wolverine mid-strike and hurled him into Iceman, scattering both X-Men. "Leveraging unique abilities," covering each other's weaknesses. It's the strategy of the weak made powerful through unity. He caught Storm's lightning in one hand, absorbed it, and redirected it back at her, forcing her to dissipate or be struck by her own power. But unity has limits. Let me show you. The Omega effect pulsed, and this time it wasn't directed at the heroes. It was directed at the space between them. The ground beneath their coordinated formation simply ceased to exist, creating a chasm that disrupted their careful positioning. Heroes scrambled, some falling, others flying to intercept falling comrades. The perfect coordination fragmenting into survival instinct. Darkseid exploited the chaos instantly. Omega beam struck 6 targets simultaneously. Iceman was erased, simply gone. Bobby Drake's last thought a frozen snapshot of disbelief. 2 Dora Milaje warriors vanished. A Guardian, Kraglin trying to pilot a weapons system, disappeared from the Milano's cockpit. Each erasure was instant, absolute, and terrifying. No! Cyclops screamed, rage and grief overwhelming tactical sense. His optic blast went to maximum output, the beam that could level mountains pouring from his eyes. Darkseid met it with one hand, palm open, absorbing the dimensional energy like rain. Then he redirected it, and only Storm's desperate wind wall saved Cyclops from being cut in half by his own power. You lose people and lose focus, Darkseid observed. Understandable, exploitable. Your unity is your strength and your weakness. Shall I demonstrate further? He moved then, truly moved, and the heroes realized he'd been holding back. The new guard became a blur, stone fists striking with surgical precision. She-Hulk blocked a punch and felt bones crack despite gamma-enhanced durability. Beta Ray Bill swung Stormbreaker and was caught, weapon and wielder, and thrown into the ground hard enough to create a crater. Black Panther's vibranium absorbed kinetic energy, but Darkseid's Omega beams didn't carry kinetic energy. They carried negation, and the Panther's suit began to fail, vibranium attempting to not exist and exist simultaneously. Carol Danvers returned from the stratosphere, binary mode fully active, cosmic energy making her shine like a star. She struck Darkseid with everything she had, photonic blasts and super strength combining in an assault that devastated the landscape. The new god weathered it, then caught her throat mid-punch. "You channel cosmic energy," he said, studying her as she struggled. The Kree weapon fused with human determination. Impressive engineering. But you've never fought a new god. Your cosmic power is borrowed, technological. Mine is intrinsic. His eyes flared, and Captain Marvel screamed as the Omega effect poured into her, attempting to erase her from existence. Her cosmic energy fought back, the contradiction creating a feedback loop that threatened to tear her apart. Only Doom's immediate intervention, a techno-sorcery shield that temporarily disrupted the Omega effect's targeting, saved her life. "He's adapting faster than we can adjust," Reed Richards warned, his mind racing through tactical scenarios and finding most of them ending in defeat. "He's learning our capabilities, our limits, our coordination patterns. Every second we fight, he gets better at fighting us." "Then we stop fighting as individuals," a calm voice suggested. The Silver Surfer descended from the heavens, board gleaming, power cosmic radiating from his chrome form. Behind him, space tore open, and the Watcher appeared. Uatu, the cosmic observer who famously never interfered, his ancient face grave. "This is wrong," the Watcher's voice echoed across dimensions. "Darkseid should not exist here. The barriers between DC and Marvel cosmologies were absolute. His presence suggests something worse than invasion. It suggests the barriers themselves are failing." "Can you send him back?" Strange asked desperately. "I can observe," Uatu replied, bound by cosmic law. "But the Surfer is free to act." Norinrad, the Silver Surfer, rode the power cosmic like lesser beings rode wind. Galactus's herald possessed mastery over fundamental forces, reality manipulation on par with Infinity Stone wielders. He gestured, and space-time bent, attempting to open a dimensional portal forcibly and eject Darkseid back to his origin point. Darkseid caught the portal's edge as it formed around him, stone fingers digging into warped space-time, and simply held it open through sheer strength of will. Clever, using my own displacement against me. It might even have worked if I hadn't expected it. The Omega effect struck the Silver Surfer, and the power cosmic met the Omega effect in a collision that registered as a gamma-ray burst visible from neighboring star systems. The Surfer's chrome form held, but barely. Cosmic energy and negation force locked in stalemate. "He's equal to a Herald of Galactus," Reed said, and the horror in his voice was palpable. "That puts him on par with Celestials, with abstract entities. We can't win this conventionally." "Then we win unconventionally," Doom declared. His plan was insane, desperate, and brilliant. "Strange, Wanda. Follow my lead. Richards, I need your portal calculations. Magneto, buy us 30 seconds. "What are you planning?" Sam demanded. "Something that would horrify me if we had time for conscience," Doom replied. "We cannot kill him, we cannot banish him, but we can trap him in the one place he cannot escape through power alone." Understanding dawned on Strange's face. "The Dark Dimension. You want to imprison him in Dormammu's realm." "The Dark Dimension exists outside normal time and space," Doom explained rapidly. "Darkseid can override our reality's rules, but Dormammu's dimension operates on fundamentally different principles. It's ruled by a being of pure cosmic fire and temporal authority. Even Darkseid would need time to adapt, and time is what Dormammu doesn't grant." "Dormammu would never agree to this," Wanda protested. "Dormammu doesn't get a choice," Doom said coldly. "We're forcing a collision between two cosmic tyrants. Let them destroy each other." It was ruthless, dangerous, and potentially catastrophic. It was also their best chance. "Do it," Sam ordered. Doom, Strange, and Wanda began the most complex spell any of them had attempted. 3 reality benders, working in perfect coordination, tearing a hole not to another location, but to another plane of existence entirely. The Dark Dimension loomed, a realm of purple flame and temporal distortion where Dormammu's presence saturated everything. Magneto, Storm, Thor, and Bill created a storm of metal, lightning, and wind, an elemental prison that forced Darkseid backward toward the forming portal. Carol and the Surfer hit him from opposite sides, cosmic energy and power cosmic combining. Black Panther's vibranium absorbed the shock waves, protecting the spellcasters from backwash. Darkseid realized what they were attempting and genuinely laughed. "You think to trap me in another dimension? I've conquered dimensions. I've subjugated realities." "Then you'll feel right at home," Doom replied. And the spell completed. The Dark Dimension erupted into Marvel's reality, Dormammu's attention immediately focusing on the dimensional breach. The fire-headed cosmic entity roared rage at the intrusion, flames that burned time itself reaching through the portal. Darkseid stood between 2 choices: resist the heroes and be pushed into the Dark Dimension, or destroy the spellcasters and face Dormammu's wrath as the dimension spilled into his location. He chose option 3, something none of them had predicted. He dove willingly into the Dark Dimension. "What?" Dormammu's voice shook reality. "Who dares?" "I am Darkseid," the new god proclaimed, stepping into Dormammu's realm as a conqueror, not a prisoner. "And I claim this dimension for Apocalypse." The portal sealed behind him as Strange, Doom, and Wanda collapsed from exhaustion. For a moment, there was silence on the battlefield. Did we win? Peter Parker asked, voicing what everyone wondered. We bought time, Reed Richards corrected, already analyzing residual dimensional data. But Darkseid just walked into the dark dimension deliberately. He's either insane or he has a plan. Inside the dark dimension, Dormammu and Darkseid faced each other, a cosmic entity of pure fire and time distortion versus a new god of tyranny and anti-life. The battle that erupted would shake the dimensional barriers themselves, and Earth's heroes could only hope that two unstoppable forces would destroy each other. But Darkseid smiled because he'd learned what he needed. The Mind Stone's quantum echoes existed in the consciousness of those who'd wielded it, yes, but more importantly, the concept of the Infinity Stones themselves suggested this universe understood the mathematics of absolute control. The Mind Stone had been destroyed, but its principles remained, and in the dark dimension, where time meant nothing, Darkseid had infinite time to study, to plan, to prepare. The heroes had won a battle. But the war for free will had only begun. The dark dimension had never known an invader like Darkseid. Dormammu's realm existed outside conventional space-time, a purple flame universe where the fire-headed entity reigned as absolute sovereign. Souls trapped here experienced eternal torment, time looping and fragmenting according to Dormammu's whim. The cosmic entity had consumed countless dimensions, absorbed realities into his burning essence. He was ancient when Earth's sun was young, and Darkseid looked at him with utter contempt. This is your dimension. The new god surveyed the purple flames with clinical disinterest. Primitive, chaotic. You rule through raw power rather than philosophical certainty. You are a tyrant of force, not inevitability. You dare! Dormammu's voice was the roar of collapsing stars. Purple flames intensified, temperature rising beyond measurement, heat that existed as pure concept rather than physics. The fire didn't burn. It unmade, dissolving matter and energy into fundamental nothingness. I am eternal. I am unending. You are an insect who has wandered into the furnace. Dormammu struck, and the assault would have obliterated planets. Purple fire poured from every direction, above and below, from dimensions that didn't exist in normal space. The flames carried temporal distortion. Whatever they touched would experience every moment of its existence simultaneously, past and future collapsing into agonized now. Darkseid raised both hands, and the Omega effect met Dormammu's flames. Crimson and purple collided, negation versus dissolution, two absolute forces clashing in a realm where neither should be able to exist. The dark dimension screamed, fundamental laws of its existence challenged by an intruder who simply refused to acknowledge them. Interesting, Darkseid observed, even as flames tried to consume him. You manipulate temporal flow, make time your weapon, but I come from a universe where new gods exist outside linear time. Your flames burn yesterday, today, tomorrow. I exist in eternal now. They cannot touch what is eternally present. He pushed, and the Omega effect expanded, crimson light flooding purple flame, asserting the primacy of negation over dissolution. Dormammu actually staggered, his control over his own dimension wavering for the first time in eons. Impossible. The cosmic entity poured more power into the assault, drawing from the dark dimension's infinite reserves. Souls trapped here for millennia screamed as Dormammu consumed them for energy, entire civilizations suffering converted to fuel. This is my realm. I am absolute here. You are absolute until you meet inevitability, Darkseid replied, and now he was walking forward, through flames that could unmake gods, boots steady on ground that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. You rule this dimension through raw cosmic power. I understand a greater truth. Power is merely the enforcement mechanism of philosophy. You have strength. I have certainty. Dormammu abandoned subtlety, attacking with the full might of a dimension-consuming entity. The dark dimension itself became weapon. Space inverted, time shattered, causality reversed. Darkseid experienced being burned alive, then unburned, then burned again in infinite, recursive loop. Matter and energy ceased having meaning. Only will mattered here, and Darkseid's will was absolute. The Omega effect erupted not from his eyes, but from his very essence, crimson light that was more than energy. It was the fundamental assertion that Darkseid existed, and anything contradicting that existence was by definition false. Dormammu's flames tried to unmake him and failed, because unmake was a process, and the processes required time, and time had no authority over one who embodied eternal dominion. They fought for what might have been seconds or centuries. Time meant nothing here. Dormammu through dimensional rifts, paradox loops, existential contradictions that would have destroyed Galactus himself. Darkseid methodically dismantled each attack, learning the dark dimension's rules, and then demonstrating their irrelevance to him. "You're powerful," Darkseid acknowledged, catching a stream of purple flame and studying it like a specimen. "But power without purpose is merely chaos. I seek anti-life. What do you seek?" "Conquest," Dormammu roared. "I will consume all dimensions. All reality will burn in my flames." "Generic ambition," Darkseid observed dismissively. "You want everything because you can have everything. Childish. I want anti-life because it is the answer, the final proof that eliminates the question of free will, that resolves the paradox of consciousness. You're a cosmic parasite. I'm a philosopher with the power to prove my thesis." The insult infuriated Dormammu beyond reason. The cosmic entity abandoned all strategy, simply trying to overwhelm Darkseid through sheer apocalyptic force. The dark dimension convulsed, flames reaching temperatures that exceeded the Big Bang, pressure that collapsed space-time itself, and Darkseid caught it all in his hands, compressed it, and spoke a single word. "No." The flame stopped. Not extinguished, denied. The Omega effect declared that Dormammu's assault had not occurred, and reality, confused by two contradicting absolute authorities, chose neither, creating a null zone where both attacks simply ceased to be. Dormammu felt something he hadn't experienced in eons. Fear. What? What are you? The cosmic entity's voice lost its certainty, flames flickering with something approaching doubt. "I am Darkseid," came the response, simple and terrible. "And I am teaching you the difference between cosmic power and cosmic certainty. You rule this dimension, I rule inevitability. Your dimension is merely another location. My philosophy is universal." On Earth, the heroes dealt with the aftermath of the battle. Casualties were assessed, Iceman gone, several Dora Milaje erased. Kraglin simply no longer existing. Medical teams worked on the wounded. Reed Richards analyzed the dimensional data from the portal, trying to understand what had happened. "The dark dimension is destabilizing," he reported grimly, holographic readouts showing purple energy fluctuations. "Something's happening in there, and it's affecting the dimensional barriers throughout our reality." "Can Dormammu contain Darkseid?" Sam Wilson asked, exhaustion evident in every word. The battle had taken everything they had, and they'd only managed a stalemate through desperation and luck. "Unknown," Strange admitted, slumped in a chair, hands still trembling from spell fatigue. "Dormammu is one of the most powerful entities in existence. He's consumed dimensions, threatened all reality. But Darkseid..." He trailed off, struggling for words. "Darkseid doesn't fight like anything I've encountered. He doesn't overcome obstacles. He denies they exist. It's a fundamentally different approach to power." "Less important than what he learned," Doom interjected, having removed his mask to reveal a face tight with concern. He deliberately walked into that trap. That means he got what he came for. The Mind Stone knowledge. Wanda said quietly, guilt heavy in her voice. He downloaded my memories, everything I knew about it. He understands its principles now. Then he'll come back, Thor stated flatly, Stormbreaker resting across his knees, the god of thunder's face grim. Dormammu won't kill him. I've fought enough gods to recognize another. Darkseid is beyond. He'll escape the dark dimension, and when he returns, he'll know our weaknesses. We nearly lost, Carol Danvers added, her cosmic energy flickering erratically, still recovering from the Omega Effect's assault. Everyone we threw at him, every power we had, and we nearly lost. If he comes back stronger. The unspoken conclusion hung heavy. If Darkseid returned with greater understanding of this universe's rules, with knowledge of the Mind Stone's principles, with time to prepare, they would lose. Earth would fall, the universe would kneel. Then we prepare too, Sam decided, Captain America's leadership asserting itself even in exhaustion. Reed, I need you analyzing everything we learned about him. Weaknesses, patterns, anything. Strange. Research if there are cosmic entities who might help. Eternity, the living tribunal, anyone above Dormammu's level. Doom, you're the smartest person in this room. In any room, Doom corrected reflexively. So figure out what anti-life actually means and how we counter it. Carol, take the Guardians and check if this threat has drawn cosmic attention. Celestials, Watchers, anyone. Thor, you're with me. We're rallying every hero, every asset we have. If Darkseid comes back, we meet him with everything this universe has. And if that's not enough? Peter Parker asked, the young hero's voice small. Sam looked at the assembled heroes. The Avengers, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, reformed villains, cosmic entities, street-level vigilantes, and everything in between. They were wounded, exhausted, traumatized by fighting something that had erased people from existence with casual dismissal. But they were standing. They were here. Then we make it enough, Sam replied, shield gripped tight. Darkseid said we fight for nothing. He's wrong. We fight for the right to choose heroism over tyranny, hope over despair, freedom over anti-life. That's not nothing. That's everything. In the dark dimension, Dormammu and Darkseid's battle reached a critical juncture. The cosmic entity, through dimensional collapse, existential paradox, temporal deletion, every weapon in a reality warper's arsenal. Darkseid weathered it all, learning, adapting, understanding, and then he stopped fighting. This is pointless, Darkseid declared. We are too evenly matched. You cannot kill me in any time frame that matters. I cannot kill you in your own dimension. We could fight for eternity and achieve nothing. Then you admit defeat. Dormammu's flames blazed triumph. I admit tactical futility, Darkseid corrected, which is why I propose an alternative, alliance. The dark dimension went silent. Dormammu's flames flickered with something between curiosity and suspicion. Alliance, you invaded my realm, challenged my authority. A demonstration, Darkseid explained calmly. Proof that I am worth listening to. You want to consume all dimensions. I want to establish anti-life across all existence. Our goals align, absolute dominion. The difference is methodology. You consume, I enlighten. You destroy free will through fire. I eliminate it through mathematical proof. Together, we could achieve what neither could alone. You want the universe I inhabit, Dormammu accused, but interest crept into his voice. I want its principles, Darkseid clarified. The Infinity Stones existed here. 6 cosmic keystones that controlled fundamental aspects of reality. They're destroyed, but their conceptual framework remains, encoded in the universe's quantum structure, the Mind Stone especially, which governed consciousness itself. Help me understand this universe's rules fully. Help me recreate anti-life here, and I will help you consume dimensions beyond counting. I know of a multiverse beyond yours, infinite realities ripe for burning. Dormammu considered, flames pulsing with thought. The offer was tempting. This Darkseid possessed power rivaling a celestial, knowledge from outside Marvel's cosmology, and most importantly, absolute certainty. Dormammu consumed dimensions through force. This new god offered conquest through philosophy. What guarantee do I have of your cooperation? Dormammu demanded. The same guarantee I have of yours, Darkseid replied. Mutual benefit and mutual threat. Betray me, and I'll ensure your flames consume nothing ever again. Aid me, and I'll open doors to realities you've never imagined. The choice is simple. Remain locked in your dimension, slowly consuming the dregs of reality, or join with inevitability and burn everything. The cosmic entity's laughter shook the dark dimension, flames dancing with malevolent glee. You speak well, Darkseid. Very well. We have an accord. Purple fire and crimson light merged, Omega effect and dark dimension energy intertwining. The alliance was sealed, and Earth's heroes, monitoring the dimensional barriers, saw the energy signatures and felt their blood run cold. They're not fighting anymore, Reed reported, disbelief and horror warring in his voice. The power levels are synchronizing, coordinating. Dormammu and Darkseid have allied, Strange said, face pale. Two cosmic tyrants working together. The implications were apocalyptic. Dormammu's reality-consuming flames combined with Darkseid's philosophical certainty and Omega effect. The dark dimension's temporal manipulation merged with new god technology and power. Two unstoppable forces, now unified in purpose. How long before they attack? Sam asked quietly. Unknown, Reed admitted. But when they do, it won't be a battle. It'll be an extinction event. Thor stood, Stormbreaker blazing with lightning, the god of thunder's voice carrying absolute resolve. Then we'd better be ready to prove that even extinction can be defied. They want to eliminate choice. We'll show them that the choice to stand against tyranny is the one thing they can never take away. The heroes nodded, grim determination replacing despair. They'd fought gods, armies, cosmic entities, and reality itself. Now they would face the ultimate test. A new god and a dimension consumer, allied in purpose, seeking to eliminate free will from existence. The stakes couldn't be higher, the odds couldn't be worse, and Earth's heroes wouldn't have it any other way. 3 weeks passed in desperate preparation. 3 weeks while Darkseid studied the dark dimension's nature, learning temporal manipulation from Dormammu's mastery. 3 weeks while Earth's heroes transformed their fractured alliances into something resembling unity. 3 weeks before the dimensional barriers screamed and tore, and purple fire mixed with crimson light poured into New York City. The attack came at dawn because tyrants appreciate symbolism. The sun rose over Manhattan, and where light should have touched the streets, darkness fell instead. The dark dimension erupted into reality at a dozen points simultaneously. Times Square, Central Park, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Statue of Liberty, each breach pouring Dormammu's flames into the world. But these weren't merely purple fires anymore. They carried the Omega effect, twisted and enhanced by Darkseid's philosophy. These flames didn't just burn, they erased identity, consumed choice, left victims alive but fundamentally altered, their free will simply deleted. S.H.I.E.L.D. satellites detected the breach instantly. Fury's voice crackled across every emergency channel. All hands. Code Omega. Dimensional incursion. Multiple sites. Civilian evacuation is priority 1. Heroes. You're authorized for maximum response. The Avengers deployed from the rebuilt compound, Sam Wilson leading a force that included every hero who could reach New York in time. Thor and Beta Ray Bill took the sky, lightning illuminating the Dark Dimension's invasion. Carol Danvers went binary, cosmic energy blazing as she dove into the purple flames, trying to seal breaches through sheer power. The Fantastic Four's Fantastica streaked toward Times Square, Reed's mind already calculating dimensional physics. But they were fighting the wrong battle, and they realized it when Darkseid stepped through the largest portal, Dormammu's flaming form materializing beside him like an unholy coronation. "People of Earth," Darkseid's voice boomed. Across every electronic device, every speaker hacking into global communications through dark dimension temporal manipulation. "Your resistance ends today. I've studied your universe, understood your Infinity Stone's principles, learned your reality's rules. The Mind Stone controlled consciousness through quantum resonance. I have recreated its essence, merged with Dormammu's temporal mastery. Behold, anti-life." His eyes flared, and the Omega effect poured outward in waves, but this wasn't the destructive negation he'd wielded before. This was something worse. The crimson light washed over buildings, streets, people, and where it touched, free will simply stopped. A police officer lowered his weapon mid-aim, face going slack. A mother shielding her child stood, expression vacant, and walked calmly into the purple flames. Thousands of people across Manhattan stopped mid-action, their choices deleted, minds overridden by the anti-life equation made manifest. "No," Sam Wilson screamed, diving toward civilians, but Strange's hand caught his shoulder. "You can't save them individually," the Sorcerer Supreme said, voice tight with horror. "That's not mind control, it's existential deletion of agency. They're alive, conscious, but the part that chooses is just gone." Wanda Maximoff felt it viscerally, her chaos magic recoiling from the wrongness. She'd worn a town as a puppet show, controlled people through grief-fueled magic, but even that had left their essential selves intact. This was different. Darkseid wasn't controlling people. He was solving them, proving through mathematical certainty that free will was an illusion, and once proven, the illusion shattered. "Witness true dominion," Dormammu's voice thundered, flames spreading across buildings, converting New York's architecture into dark dimension matter. "We do not conquer, we transcend. Your reality becomes ours. Your minds become silence." The heroes' coordinated defense became desperate. Survival. The X-Men formed a perimeter, Cyclops' optic blasts carving safe zones, Storm's hurricanes pushing back purple flames. Magneto raised every metal structure in a 5-block radius, creating a fortress of steel and concrete. Black Panther's Wakandan forces deployed vibranium barriers, the metal's energy absorption properties holding against dark dimension fire, barely. But the anti-life equation spread faster than they could contain. It wasn't a virus or poison they could cure. It was a proof, and proofs couldn't be unproven, only countered with better arguments. "We need to attack the source," Reed Richards shouted, brilliant mind racing through impossible scenarios. "Darkseid and Dormammu are sustaining this. Break their concentration, disrupt the pattern." "They're expecting that," Doom interjected, his armor's sensors reading energy flows. "This is a trap. They want us to attack directly so they can hit us with full power while we're distracted saving civilians." "Then we spring the trap," Thor declared, Stormbreaker crackling with divine fury. "We've faced impossible odds before. We face them again." The assault force assembled. Thor, Beta Ray Bill, Captain Marvel, the Silver Surfer, Sentry, every heavy hitter who could theoretically match cosmic-level threats. They struck as one, a combined attack carrying enough power to shatter planets. Darkseid and Dormammu met them with casual efficiency. The new God's Omega beams had evolved, enhanced by temporal manipulation. They struck not just in the present, but across probability streams, hitting where targets would be before they moved there. Thor blocked one beam with Stormbreaker and was struck by another that had traveled backward through time to hit him from behind. Carol's cosmic energy met purple flames and was converted. Her own power turned against her. The Surfer's power, cosmic carved reality, and reality simply rejected his edits, Darkseid's philosophical certainty overriding quantum manipulation. They were losing, not just the battle, the war. Every second, more people fell to anti-life. Every moment, the dark dimension consumed more of Earth's reality. The dimensional barriers were failing globally. Reports came from Tokyo, London, Wakanda. Purple flames erupting, people's choices deleted, reality itself being rewritten. In the Avengers Mobile Command Center, Nick Fury watched global catastrophe unfold and made the hardest call of his career. "We need the nuclear option. Get me the Sorcerer, Supreme, and Richards. Tell them it's time for the Stellar Protocol." The Stellar Protocol was a theoretical last resort developed after Thanos, a way to eject Earth from its current dimensional space entirely, phasing the planet into a pocket dimension for protection. It would save Earth, but isolate it completely, cut off from the galaxy, from heroes operating in space, from any possibility of help. They'd be alone, trapped in a bubble universe, possibly forever. Where? Not there yet. Strange argued when presented with the option. "We're past there, Stephen," Fury countered, holographic displays showing the spread of anti-life. "In 6 hours, at current expansion rate, half of Earth's population will be enslaved. In 12, the planet becomes part of the dark dimension. We phase Earth out or we lose it entirely." "There has to be another way," Peter Parker insisted, the young hero's optimism straining against reality. "We've always found another way." "This isn't a comic book, kid," Fury snapped. "This is extinction wearing a philosophical argument. Either we run or we fall." Sam Wilson stood silent, shield gripped tight, mind racing through impossible choices. Evacuate Earth from reality itself, condemning billions to isolation but preserving free will. Or keep fighting, risking anti-life's spread across not just Earth, but potentially the universe. Before he could decide, a new voice cut through the chaos. "There is a third option." The Watcher appeared, Uatu's ancient form materializing in defiance of his sworn oath of non-interference. Beside him stood cosmic entities the heroes had only heard of in legends. Eternity, the living embodiment of the universe itself. The living tribunal, cosmic judge of all realities, and impossibly the Beyonder, a being from beyond the multiverse entirely. "We have watched," Uatu declared, voice heavy with cosmic weight. "We have observed Darkseid's invasion, his alliance with Dormammu, his recreation of anti-life. This threatens not merely Earth, not merely this universe, but the fundamental nature of consciousness across all realities." Eternity spoke, its voice the sound of galaxies turning. "Anti-life is a violation of cosmic balance. Free will is not mere philosophy. It is the engine of reality's evolution. Without choice, existence becomes static, predetermined, dead. Darkseid seeks to murder the future itself." The living tribunal's 3 faces turned toward the assembled heroes. "Speaking in Trinity, we are authorized to intervene. The cosmic abstracts will engage Dormammu directly, but Darkseid is not of our cosmology. He exists outside our jurisdiction. Only you, champions of Earth, can truly oppose him." "How?" Sam demanded. "We've thrown everything at him. He's too powerful, too certain." "Power and certainty are not the same as correctness." The Beyonder interrupted, its alien consciousness barely comprehensible. "Darkseid believes anti-life is truth. Prove him wrong, not with force, but with something stronger, with choice made in the face of absolute opposition. Show him that free will is not an illusion to be disproven, but a reality that reasserts itself no matter the evidence against it. "You're saying we win by choosing to fight even when it's hopeless?" Wanda asked, understanding dawning. "That the act of defiance itself invalidates his equation." "Anti-life claims choice is meaningless," Eternity confirmed. "Every being who chooses to resist, despite perfect knowledge of probable defeat, is a data point contradicting his proof. Enough contradictions, and even Darkseid's certainty must acknowledge error." Thor laughed, wild and fierce. "Then we give him an error he cannot ignore. Every hero who stands knowing we may die, that is our weapon." "Not just heroes," Sam added, understanding spreading. "Everyone. Every person who chooses hope over despair, resistance over submission, even when anti-life is staring them down. We turn Earth into a planet-sized contradiction of his philosophy." Reed Richards was already working, brilliant mind synthesizing cosmic metaphysics with quantum theory. If we can broadcast a counter-signal, something that reminds people they can choose, gives them that moment of recognition. The anti-life equation works by making people forget choice is possible. We make them remember. "I can do that," Wanda said quietly, chaos magic flickering. "My power is probability, possibility, the quantum realm, where choice lives. If I can tap into that, broadcast it globally, it would require channeling power through every ley line on Earth simultaneously," Strange calculated. "You'd be a conduit for the planet's entire magical foundation. Wanda, that would kill you." "Only if I do it alone," she replied, looking at the assembled heroes. "But if every magic user on Earth feeds power into the spell, if every hero who can channel energy supports it, if everyone chooses to participate, then it becomes what Darkseid fears most," Doom finished, respect in his voice. "A collective choice, made with full knowledge, in defiance of his certainty. Not just a spell, but a philosophical counter-argument written in action." "We'd need time to set it up," Reed said. "Hours to position casters globally, to coordinate." "Then we buy you hours," Carol Danvers declared, binary mode blazing. "Every hero who can fight holds the line while you prepare. We give you time." Sam looked at the assembled forces. Heroes, reformed villains, cosmic entities, soldiers, and civilians who'd taken up arms. Every face showed fear, but also determination. They knew the odds. They chose to fight anyway. "Then let's prove Darkseid wrong," Captain America commanded. "Avengers, everyone assemble." The defense of New York became legend, the moment when Earth's champions stood against cosmic tyranny, knowing they would likely fall, and stood anyway. The forces divided into coordinated units, each tasked with holding a dimensional breach, while Wanda, Strange, and Doom prepared the counterspell. Thor and Beta Ray Bill took the Times Square portal, two gods of thunder against Dormammu's flames. They summoned storms that spanned dimensions, lightning that carried not just electricity, but defiance made manifest. Every bolt shouted, "I choose to fight," and the purple flames recoiled, not from damage, but from the philosophical assertion encoded in divine wrath. Carol Danvers led the cosmic-level defenders, herself, the Silver Surfer, Sentry, and surprisingly, the Hulk, who'd emerged when Bruce Banner chose to let him loose one final time. They hit Dormammu's manifested form, four beings channeling enough power to ignite stars, battering the cosmic entity with everything they had. They couldn't kill him, but they could hurt him, make him focus on defense rather than spreading anti-life. The X-Men formed a living shield around civilians, Cyclops coordinating with military precision. Storm's weather manipulation created safe zones where anti-life couldn't penetrate. Rainfall carrying hope instead of despair. Iceman froze dimensional barriers, buying seconds. Wolverine and X-23 carved through flame-born constructs Dormammu spawned, adamantium claws, finding purchase where normal weapons failed. Black Panther's Wakandan forces deployed vibranium in configurations Reed Richards had calculated. Geometric patterns that disrupted the Omega effect's propagation, buying city blocks of safety. Shuri's genius combined with Wakandan resources created temporary sanctuaries where choice still existed. Spider-Man swung through chaos, saving civilians one by one, his spider sense screaming constant warnings but never overwhelming his choice to keep fighting. He couldn't save everyone, but every person he pulled from purple flames was another vote against anti-life's certainty. The Fantastic Four worked support. Sue's force fields protecting spellcasters, Johnny's flames burning hot enough to contest Dormammu's purple fire, Ben punching constructs that philosophy couldn't answer, and Reed coordinating everything, his brilliant mind the tactical center of organized resistance. And everywhere, ordinary people made extraordinary choices. Police officers stayed at their posts despite anti-life washing over them, choosing duty over submission in those critical seconds before the equation took hold. Civilians helped each other evacuate instead of fleeing individually. Soldiers stood their ground, knowing they faced erasure, choosing to buy time for others. Each choice was small. Each choice was a data point. Each choice contradicted Darkseid's proof, but they were still losing ground. The anti-life equation spread faster than they could counter. Darkseid stood at the center of the largest breach, Omega effect radiating in continuous waves, his certainty unshaken by the resistance. "Your defiance is admirable," the new god observed, watching heroes fall and rise and fall again, "but ultimately meaningless. You prove my point. You fight because you must, because your neurological conditioning compels resistance. Even your choices are predetermined by biology and experience. Anti-life merely reveals the truth you refuse to see." That's when Loki made his move. The god of mischief had been conspicuously absent from the main battle, and everyone had assumed cowardice or treachery. They were half right. Loki was being treacherous, just not to Earth. He'd spent 3 weeks preparing, studying Darkseid's philosophy, understanding the new god's certainty, looking for the one crack in absolute conviction. He found it in memory. Loki emerged from nowhere, illusion magic parting like curtains, standing before Darkseid with a smile that promised chaos. "Hello, tyrant, let me show you something interesting." Before Darkseid could react, Loki's Saidra struck. Not attacking, but revealing. Trickster magic didn't fight force with force. It revealed uncomfortable truths, and the truth Loki had uncovered, diving deep into Darkseid's own stolen memories from Wanda, was devastating. Darkseid had a son, Orion, raised on New Genesis, who had chosen heroism despite being born to tyranny. Chosen to oppose his own father, to fight for free will rather than dominion. Darkseid had erased those memories, suppressed them because they contradicted anti-life's certainty. Loki forced them back. For one moment, Darkseid remembered his son's defiance, remembered Orion choosing heroism, knowing it meant eternal war with his father, and that memory was a data point the new god couldn't dismiss. His own bloodline had contradicted him. His own son had proven, through existence and choice, that anti-life was not inevitable. The Omega effect flickered, just for a second, just a fraction of cosmic time, but it flickered. And that was when Wanda's spell completed. Every magic user on Earth had contributed. Strange and Wong channeling the mystic arts, Doom adding techno-sorcery, Scarlet Witch weaving chaos magic, even demonic entities like Mephisto contributing power because anti-life threatened their domains too. The spell didn't attack Darkseid or Dormammu. It simply reminded everyone what choice felt like. Across the globe, people under anti-life's influence felt a moment of clarity. The equation still asserted they had no free will, still proved mathematically that choice was illusion, but for one shining instant, They could choose to believe otherwise. It was faith versus proof, hope versus certainty, and millions of people chose hope. The anti-life equation shattered. Not because it was disproven. Philosophically, it remained logically sound. But because enough people chose to reject it anyway, and that rejection, that illogical defiance of perfect proof, was itself proof of something Darkseid hadn't accounted for, will transcending logic. Darkseid staggered, his certainty cracking. The Omega effect sputtered, and for the first time since arriving in this universe, doubt touched the new god's mind. Not doubt in his power, but doubt in his philosophy, and for a being whose strength came from absolute conviction, philosophical doubt was acid on stone. "Impossible!" he roared, rage replacing certainty. "The equation is perfect. It cannot be denied." "And yet we deny it," Sam Wilson said, shield raised, standing at the head of every hero still standing. "You tried to prove we don't have free will. We proved you wrong by choosing to reject your proof. That's the paradox you'll never solve. Darkseid, choice doesn't need to be logical to be real." Dormammu, seeing his ally weakened, reconsidered their alliance with cosmic pragmatism. The Dark Dimension entity had allied with Darkseid for power, not philosophy. If the new god's certainty was shattered, he was just another warrior, and Dormammu didn't share power with equals. "Our alliance is concluded," Dormammu declared, purple flames turning on Darkseid instead of Earth. "You have failed, new god. The Dark Dimension claims you as fuel." But Darkseid, even weakened, even doubting, was still Darkseid. The rage of a humbled tyrant is terrible to behold. The Omega effect exploded outward, not as calculated certainty, but as raw destructive fury. He would burn this universe down before admitting defeat. That's when the cosmic entities intervened. Eternity manifested fully, the living universe wrapping Darkseid in existence itself. The living tribunal judged, and its verdict was banishment. The Beyonder opened a portal to the space between realities, a void where even new gods would find no purchase. And the Watcher, breaking every oath, used cosmic awareness to blind Darkseid's perception, making it impossible to target, impossible to fight what he couldn't see. "No!" Darkseid raged, Omega effect firing wildly, erasing chunks of reality in his fury. "I am inevitable. You are exiled," Eternity pronounced, and the universe itself rejected Darkseid's presence. The new god was torn from Marvel reality, dragged screaming into the void between cosmologies, the barriers he'd crossed sealing behind him. His last words echoed across dimensions. "I will return. Anti-life is eternal. You have not seen the last of—" Silence. The portal closed. The dimensional barriers, reinforced by cosmic entities, sealed themselves. Darkseid was gone, cast out of Marvel's universe entirely, back to the nothing between DC and Marvel realities. Dormammu, seeing the tide turned, retreated to the Dark Dimension, purple flames withdrawing. The cosmic entities turned their attention to the fire-headed tyrant, and he realized he faced judgment from beings whose power rivaled his own. "Another time," Dormammu declared, flames dissipating. "This realm still calls to me. I will return." But the Dark Dimension's portals sealed, the entity withdrawing, and New York was suddenly, shockingly, quiet. The anti-life equation's effects began to fade. People who'd lost free will felt it return slowly, like blood flowing back into numb limbs. The psychological trauma would be immense, the therapy necessary incalculable. But they were themselves again. They could choose. Heroes collapsed where they stood, exhaustion and injury finally catching up. Thor leaned on Stormbreaker, blood streaming from dozens of wounds. Carol fell from the sky, caught by the Silver Surfer before she hit pavement. The Hulk reverted to Bruce Banner, unconscious before transformation completed. Wanda lay in a crater of her own making, chaos magic spent, barely breathing. But they'd won. Against impossible odds, against cosmic tyranny, against a philosophical proof of their own irrelevance, they'd won. The victory celebration was muted, more wake than party. Avengers Compound's medical wing overflowed with wounded heroes. The death toll was catastrophic. Hundreds of heroes and thousands of civilians erased by the Omega effect or consumed by dark dimension flames. Iceman was gone, along with Kraglin and dozens of other names that would be carved into memorials. But Earth stood, battered, traumatized, changed, but standing. Sam Wilson walked through the compound, shield resting against his shoulder, visiting the wounded. Thor was regenerating, Asgardian healing slowly knitting flesh, but the god of thunder looked older somehow, burdened by the weight of fighting something that challenged his very understanding of divinity. Carol Danvers lay in a specialized medical pod, cosmic energy fluctuating wildly as her body recovered from channeling power beyond even her considerable limits. Wanda Maximoff was the greatest concern. The Scarlet Witch had channeled Earth's entire magical foundation, had become the focal point for millions of people's choices made manifest. Her body had survived, but her mind was fractured. Consciousness scattered across probability streams she'd woven. Strange worked tirelessly to guide her back, to reunite the pieces of her psyche. "Will she recover?" Sam asked quietly. "Unknown," Strange admitted, exhaustion making him look decades older. She touched something fundamental, the raw essence of choice itself. That kind of power changes people. But Wanda's strong. If anyone can come back from this, it's her. In another wing, Reed Richards and Dr. Doom worked side by side, rivalry forgotten in the face of cosmic aftermath, analyzing the dimensional barriers for permanent damage. The news wasn't good. "The barriers between our universe and others are weaker than before," Reed reported, holographic displays showing stress fractures in reality's fabric. Darkseid broke through because the multiverse was already damaged by our own actions, destroying the Infinity Stones, the chaos of the TVA's timeline management, Wanda's multiverse-spanning search for her children. We've been treating reality carelessly, and we're paying the price. "Can it be repaired?" Fury asked, joining the discussion. "Given time, reality should heal itself," Doom answered, should being the operative word. "But we've learned something dangerous. The barriers between Marvel and DC cosmologies can be breached. Darkseid found a way, others might follow." The implications hung heavy. Darkseid had been exiled, but the pathway he'd used still existed, weakened and vulnerable. DC's universe contained other threats, Superman's rogues gallery, apocalypse armies, threats that might see Marvel's reality as conquest opportunity. "Then we prepare," Sam decided. "We establish protocols for extra-dimensional invasion. We strengthen Earth's defenses, not just against our own threats, but against external ones." "We'll need more than defense," Carol said, having recovered enough to join the discussion, though her cosmic energy still flickered unstably. "We need early warning. If reality tears open again, we need to know immediately." "Sword can handle that," Fury confirmed. "I'm establishing a dimensional monitoring division. Reed, I want your expertise. Doom, you too if you're willing." Doom inclined his head, metal mask hiding whatever thoughts crossed his face. "Latveria will contribute. This threat endangered my nation as much as yours. I will not permit a repeat." The conversation turned to rebuilding, to healing, to processing trauma. But Sam noticed one person missing from the discussions. Loki. He found the god of mischief on the compound's roof, staring at stars that seemed somehow different now, knowing that beyond them lay not just other galaxies, but other cosmologies entirely. "You saved us," Sam said, sitting beside him. "That memory you showed Darkseid, his son, that broke his certainty." "I'm a trickster," Loki replied, voice uncharacteristically soft. "I find truths people hide from themselves. Darkseid buried his son's defiance because it contradicted anti-life. Forcing him to remember it was petty revenge in a way. Petty revenge that saved Earth. Happy coincidence." Loki paused, then continued. "I wielded the Mind Stone once. Used it to enslave people, to build an army, to attack this very planet. I've been exactly what Darkseid is. A tyrant who believed individuals didn't matter, that the only truth was power." "But you changed," Sam pointed out. "Did I? Or did I just find a different way to be selfish?" Loki's smile was bitter. "I helped defeat Darkseid not from heroism, but because his philosophy terrified me. If anti-life is real, if free will truly is an illusion, then everything I've done, every choice I've made, good or evil, was predetermined. I'd be a puppet who thought he was pulling strings. The fact that possibility terrifies you proves it's not true," Sam said. "If you were truly predetermined, you wouldn't fear it. Fear requires imagination of alternatives, and imagination of alternatives is choice." Loki considered that trickster mind finding comfort in the paradox. "You're more philosophical than I expected, Captain." "I learned from the best." Sam stood, offering his hand. "Steve Rogers taught me that the price of freedom is high, but it's a price we pay gladly. You paid it today, too, Loki. That makes you more than a trickster. It makes you a hero, even if you won't admit it." Loki took the hand, pulled himself up. "Don't spread that around. I have a reputation to maintain." But there was warmth in his smile, and when he left, it was through the compound's front door rather than a portal. A small choice, but his own. 2 days later, a memorial service was held in Central Park for those who'd been erased. Their names were read, heroes and civilians both, people who'd made the choice to stand and had paid the ultimate price. Iceman, Bobby, Drake, Kraglin, Obfonteri, Dora Milaje warriors, whose names were spoken in Wakandan, honored as heroes of their nation. Civilians who'd stayed to help evacuate others instead of running. The list was long, and each name was a reminder of what had been risked, what had been lost. But it was also a reminder of what had been preserved. Every person gathered there, every tear shed, every memory honored. All of it existed because people had chosen to fight. They could have submitted, could have accepted anti-life certainty, could have knelt. They'd chosen to stand. After the service, as heroes began departing to their own cities, their own duties, Thor approached Sam Wilson with a thoughtful expression. "Captain," the god of thunder said formally, "I have lived for 1,500 years. I have seen empires rise and fall, fought monsters and gods, witnessed the birth and death of stars. Today, I saw something more impressive. Mortals proving that the strength of conviction exceeds the power of gods. You should be proud." "We just did what needed doing," Sam replied, uncomfortable with praise. "No," Thor corrected gently. "You did what you chose to do, knowing it might cost everything. That is the essence of heroism, not power, but choice made in defiance of certainty. Remember that when the next impossible threat arrives. And it will arrive. It always does." He was right, of course. The universe was vast, dangerous, and full of threats that would make Darkseid look small. But Earth's heroes had learned something valuable, that the greatest weapon against tyranny wasn't power, but the simple, stubborn insistence that choice mattered. As the sun set over New York, casting long shadows over a city that had nearly fallen to cosmic darkness, Sam Wilson stood atop the rebuilt Avengers Tower and looked out over 8 million people making 8 million small choices. where to eat dinner, whether to call an old friend, which movie to watch, what dreams to pursue. Insignificant choices, Darkseid would have said, meaningless in the grand cosmic scheme. But Sam knew better. Every choice, however small, was an act of rebellion against inevitability. Every decision made freely was proof that anti-life, however logical, however certain, was wrong. And that was worth fighting for, worth dying for, if necessary. But preferably, worth living for. 6 months after Darkseid's exile, Earth had achieved a new equilibrium. The physical damage was repaired. New York rebuilt, dimensional barriers reinforced, swords monitoring systems operational. But the psychological scars ran deeper. Therapists worldwide specialized in treating anti-life trauma, helping people who'd experienced having their choice deleted learn to trust their own decisions again. The hero community had changed too. The temporary alliance forged in desperation became something more permanent. Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four, street-level heroes, cosmic entities. They maintained communication now, coordinated protocols, shared intelligence. The Darkseid invasion had taught them that threats could come from outside their cosmology entirely, that preparation meant thinking beyond their traditional scope. Reed Richards and Dr. Doom's joint research had yielded fruit, an early warning system detecting dimensional instabilities before they became breaches. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Strange and Wong had strengthened the Sanctum Sanctorum's defenses, adding protections against non-Marvel magical systems. The TVA, through Loki's reluctant cooperation, monitored timeline variants for DC cosmology intrusions. The world knew they'd been invaded by a god from another reality, though the full details remained classified. But the knowledge changed humanity's perspective. They weren't alone in the multiverse, and their neighbors weren't all friendly. In Wakanda, Shuri presented new defensive technologies to the Tribal Council, vibranium-based systems designed to protect against Omega Effect-type reality negation. Black Panther authorized their distribution to allies, a historic break from Wakanda's isolationism. We faced a threat beyond our world, beyond our universe, T'Challa explained. We cannot afford to stand alone anymore. At the X-Mansion, Professor Xavier implemented new training protocols. Students learned not just to control their powers, but to recognize and resist philosophical attacks on free will. Darkseid wielded an equation that made choice seem like an illusion, Xavier lectured. The strongest defense against such weapons is understanding that choice is real, even when logic suggests otherwise. Faith in your own agency is not ignorance. It is wisdom. In space, the Guardians of the Galaxy encountered something troubling. Rumors spreading through alien civilizations about the God from between who'd invaded Earth. Some species saw it as opportunity, proof that dimensional barriers could be breached, that new conquests awaited. Rocket reported back to Sword with characteristic bluntness. Half the galaxy thinks Earth's a dimensional weak point now. You're gonna have tourists and not the friendly kind. But Earth was ready in ways it hadn't been before. The hero community had evolved from reactive to proactive, from isolated teams to coordinated defense. When minor dimensional breaches appeared, and they did, reality's scars taking time to heal, heroes responded within minutes, containing threats before they escalated. The most surprising development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Doom established the Latvian Institute for Interdimensional Defense, offering resources and research to any nation willing to contribute. It was still Doom, still serving his own interests, but those interests now aligned with Earth's protection. Darkseid taught me something valuable, Doom admitted to Reed Richards during one collaborative session. That there are threats beyond even my genius to face alone. It galls me to admit it, but cooperation has merit, under my leadership naturally. Reed smiled despite himself. Naturally. Sam Wilson stood in Avengers Compound's Memorial Hall, looking at the wall of names. Heroes lost not just to Darkseid, but to every battle the Avengers had fought. Steve Rogers' portrait hung at the center, the original Captain America, the man who taught Sam that the shield wasn't about super strength, but about choosing to stand when others couldn't. "You'd be proud of us, Steve," Sam said quietly. "We stood. We chose. Even when a god from another universe told us choice was an illusion, we chose to prove him wrong." Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Wanda Maximoff finally recovered from her ordeal, though her eyes carried a depth they hadn't before, as if she'd seen beyond the veil of reality and brought some of that perspective back. "Talking to ghosts?" she asked gently. "Talking to memories," Sam corrected, "reminding myself why we do this." Wanda stood beside him looking at the names. "I touched something when I cast that spell. The raw essence of choice, the quantum foundation where possibility lives. Darkseid was right about one thing. From a purely logical standpoint, free will might be an illusion. Determinism has strong arguments. But, Sam prompted, hearing the unspoken continuation. "But logic isn't everything," Wanda continued. "I felt people choosing Sam, millions of minds making decisions that couldn't be predicted, couldn't be calculated, couldn't be solved. The mathematics of consciousness are beautiful precisely because they're incomplete. We're not equations. We're poetry. Poetry that kicks cosmic ass when necessary," Sam added with a smile. "That too." They stood in comfortable silence, two heroes who'd faced the negation of self and survived, carrying scars, but also wisdom. The compound's alert system remained quiet. No emergencies today, no crises demanding immediate response. Just peace, temporary and precious. "Do you think he'll come back?" Wanda asked. "Darkseid? Probably," Sam admitted. "Tyrants don't give up easily, and we proved he could be defeated. That kind of humiliation demands response. Then we'll be ready." "We'll be ready," Sam confirmed. Because that was the thing about heroes. They understood that threats never truly ended, that peace was always temporary, that the next crisis loomed over the horizon. And they chose to stand guard anyway, chose to prepare, chose to hope. Anti-life had claimed that choice was an illusion, that free will could be mathematically disproven. Earth's heroes had answered with the most powerful counter-argument possible. "We choose to reject your proof, and that choice is real because we make it real." Somewhere in the void between DC and Marvel cosmologies, Darkseid plotted his return, studying his defeat, learning from his failure. He would come back stronger, more prepared, with new strategies for breaking Earth's defenders. But Earth's heroes would be waiting, and they'd learned something too. That the greatest power in the universe wasn't the Omega effect, wasn't the Infinity Stones, wasn't cosmic entities or reality manipulation. It was the simple, defiant choice to stand against tyranny and say, "No, not today. Not ever." The shield on Sam's arm caught the afternoon light. Vibranium, gleaming, a symbol that had stood against every tyrant who'd threatened Earth, Red Skull, Thanos, and now Darkseid. Different wielder, same principle. Freedom is worth fighting for, and Earth's mightiest heroes would keep fighting, keep choosing, keep proving that free will wasn't an equation to be solved, but a reality to be lived. The Watcher observed from his station beyond reality, and for once, the cosmic being allowed himself the smallest smile. He'd seen the birth of galaxies and the death of universes, witnessed civilizations rise and fall across infinite timelines. But watching mortals prove a new god wrong through sheer stubborn choice? That was something special. In the dark dimension, Dormammu brooded, His alliance with Darkseid shattered, his invasion repelled. But the fire-headed entity was patient. Dimensions were eternal, and so was hunger. He would wait, watch, and when Earth's guard lowered, when the heroes grew complacent, he would strike again. But not today. Today, Earth was defended. Today, free will stood triumphant. Today, the choice to resist had proven stronger than the certainty of dominion. And tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own threats, its own impossible odds. But Earth's heroes would face them the same way they'd faced Darkseid, together, determined and absolutely certain of one thing, that the choice to stand mattered, that heroism transcended power, and that as long as one person chose to fight for freedom, tyranny could never truly win. Sam Wilson, Captain America, shield-bearer and leader, walked from the memorial hall into the afternoon sun, ready for whatever came next. Because heroes don't rest, they choose to stand watch. Always. The Darkseid invasion entered history as the Omega Crisis, the day Earth faced a philosophical threat as much as a physical one, and proved that the human spirit's defiance transcended logic itself. Universities taught it as case study in resistance theory. Philosophers debated the implications for centuries. The Avengers kept the full details classified, but the lesson spread anyway. Choice is not an illusion to be disproven, but a reality to be lived. In the years that followed, Earth's heroes faced new challenges. Kang's temporal invasion, the Secret War's multiversal collapse, cosmic threats that made Darkseid look small, but they faced each one with the knowledge earned through that desperate battle. That unity, cooperation, and the simple, stubborn choice to never surrender could overcome even impossible odds. The dimensional barriers remained scarred, reality forever changed by the new god's intrusion. But those scars served as reminder and warning. The multiverse was vast, containing threats beyond imagination, and Earth stood as beacon of defiant hope in the darkness. Dr. Doom's Institute for Interdimensional Defense became a global resource, monitoring dimensional stability and developing countermeasures for exotic threats. The Avengers expanded their roster, maintaining teams specifically trained for cosmic and extra-dimensional response. The X-Men opened their school to non-mutant students, teaching the next generation that powers mattered less than the choices made with them. And in the Sanctum Sanctorum, Doctor Strange kept one artifact from the battle, a fragment of Darkseid's armor, the only piece of the new god left behind when cosmic entities exiled him. It sat in a case marked with every protective enchantment Strange knew, a reminder that threats could come from cosmologies Earth didn't even know existed. The armor fragment occasionally pulsed with crimson light, Omega effect echoes that never fully faded. When it did, Strange would feel a chill, because he knew what that light meant. Darkseid was out there, somewhere in the space between realities, planning his return, learning from defeat, preparing new strategies, building new alliances. The new god's certainty had been cracked, but not shattered. He would come back. But Earth would be ready. Earth would choose to stand. Earth would prove, again and again, that free will was not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be celebrated. Because in the end, that was what made Earth's heroes different from cosmic tyrants. Darkseid sought to eliminate choice through logical proof. Earth's champions defended it through illogical faith. Faith that choice mattered, that individuals mattered, that the small decisions made by billions of people added up to something greater than any equation could contain. Anti-life claimed free will was an illusion. Earth responded, then we'll make our illusions real. And they did. Sam Wilson, looking out over New York from Avengers Tower, saw a city of 8 million people making 8 million choices. What to eat, where to go, how to live. Small choices, perhaps, insignificant to cosmic beings. But to Sam, to the Avengers, to every hero who'd stood against Darkseid's certainty, those choices were everything. They were the proof that mattered, the equation that couldn't be solved, the defiance that transcended logic. They were free will made manifest, and no tyrant, however powerful, however certain, however cosmic, would ever take that away. Not while Earth's mightiest heroes stood watch. Not while people chose to hope. Not while one person believed that choice mattered. Never.